Hi, I'm Kelli,
I'm Alisan.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Kristin.
and this is Fear and Wine. Hello, welcome to Fear and Wine, a podcast about horror TV shows, movies, and more. We got a lot of listeners to that last Mother's Day episode that we had.
Oh, sweet.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, I noticed a lot of people listened to it. So thank you, everyone who listened to it. That was a lot of fun for us to do. And our moms got a kick out of it. So that was good.
Yeah, I hope everybody liked listening to our moms because they
Yes.
they were funny.
Yes.
They were, yeah.
But today we are starting with Lovecraft Country, and this is one of my favorite horror series. And unfortunately, it's only one season. It should have been two because I think there's two books that it would have been based on. But I kind of thought that the season that we did get was so perfect. It's almost like a 10-part movie. Like they did it really well, just keeping it all together. So I'm kind of fine with it just being a one-season thing. And Kristin's going to lead us through the first episode of Lovecraft Country. So for the question for that episode, it is, if you were going on a road trip across the country, what 3 books, albums, and snacks would you bring with you? Because the first episode features a big road trip that they go on.
Oh. Well, it's been a long time since I've been on a road trip, so I had to think really hard about this question. I don't go on a lot of road trips. Do you guys go on
I
a lot of road
don't, but I
trips?
kind of like remembered for my favorite ones, the things that I brought and just combined them, or the
Yeah.
things I like to read or listen to.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, sure, I can.
Okay.
So I said for books, especially if it's cross country, I've never driven that long. So, and I know that's like takes a few days, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, I would want a book, or for me, book series, because I love a series that I would get completely immersed in and lost in the world of, even if I've read it before. So of course, for me, that would be the Harry Potter series or the Song of Ice and Fire series. So obviously, I would need a Kindle because no one's carrying 12 books with them.
And it would last you a long time.
Yes.
I mean, definitely, for sure.
Mhm.
I like that idea of taking books more than albums just because I feel like I could get more time out of them, maybe. I don't know. The album
Mhm.
thing scares me. I don't want to get sick of anything in perpetuity.
Yeah. Well, I had like albums I would want to listen to, but I didn't, I don't think it would be either or. It'd be kind of like a mix
Okay.
of things. Yeah.
And
Alright.
of course,
So-
it also depends on if you're driving because you can't
That's
really
true. You
read,
can't read.
unless you're
point.
listening to an audiobook.
That is a
Mhm.
very
But
good
yeah.
point. And I do like to be in control and drive all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my album choice was Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life. That's one I can listen to over and over and not really get tired of.
I love that.
And for my snack, so I don't know, Allison, if you remember this. I don't know where we were going. It might have been the Carolinas. But there was one time we were going on a road trip and Mom said we weren't going to stop and eat. So she made just a ton of fried chicken wings. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I can't remember where it was. I know we think we did it on our way down to the Keys, too.
Did we do it on the Keys? Oh, that was such
Yeah,
a messed up
that
road
was
trip. That was
Family ones are
horrendous.
always the most dramatic.
That was so
It
dramatic.
almost didn't happen.
Just real quick, just a real quick recap of what happened on the trip. And this is just starting the road trip. Once we got on the road, it was fine. But I live like 45 minutes south of my mom and my sister. So they come to pick me up and then we're going to head to the Keys. And so we're packing the car. Now this is in 2021, right? So it was
Yeah,
still
it was
during
right after,
COVID.
yeah.
Okay.
So it was still during like a lot of stuff was still locked down. So they
Like
picked
things
me
were
up.
just starting to open. Yeah.
So we're packing up my mom's SUV, and we have all this stuff that we're going to bring to the Keys for 2 nights. I don't know why we needed this much stuff. First of all, we had all this beach stuff, and the Keys barely have
No
beaches.
beach.
It's all rocks.
I went to Key West. I was like, well, wait, where's
the beach?
There's
Where's-
no beach. It's just rocks and drop-offs or a dock.
and bars.
Yeah, so I don't know why we had all this beach stuff, but so that was out of control. And then the only way to pack the car was to fold down half of the back seat, and then you could get everything in. But my mom insisted because it was COVID that no one could sit next to her in the front seat. So it caused this huge fight because there was no room for
As
us
if you're
in the
not
car.
all in the same car, breathing the same air anyway.
Leah,
Right,
we
thank
tried to
you.
explain that to her. We tried to explain it to her, and she said no. I'm more susceptible if you're in the front. So Allison threw a fit, and so this became such a big ordeal that Allison's like, "Forget it, I'm leaving." So she unpacks the whole car, takes all of her stuff, puts it in her car, and threatens to leave. I finally get everyone calmed down. So we packed and unpacked twice just to
man.
just to start this road trip.
just to get started.
Yes,
Yep.
it was so absurd. I was like, I'm over it. We were so over it before we even started.
Did it end up being a good trip though?
I don't know. It was fine. It was
Did you go to actual Key West or like was it another key?
No, we
No,
went
it was
to
the first. What's the first? Like the first one you come
Marathon
up
or
on.
something or
no
Before you even like get to like you're still kind of connected to
Largo? I
what
think we went
before-
to
yeah,
Largo.
Largo, that's what it was.
okay. Okay. Well, I
And we
guess
went to
there's
go
beaches
look
up.
at one of the resorts
A
down there,
resort.
but because of COVID, they wouldn't even let you like go into it, so it was kind of a failed trip, anyways.
Mhm.
But
Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
That was absurd. So anyway, that's mine. Oh, and of course, I would always take movie theater popcorn with me wherever I go. Like even before I get on a flight, I go to the movies, get my popcorn, and bag it up so I
Mhm,
can
me too.
take
That's
it on
so
the plane.
smart.
Giant bag.
Mm-hmm.
I
That'd
mean,
be
home
great.
there's just nothing like it.
I know.
You can't replicate it at
You
home.
can't. You really can't.
You know, the movie theater that I went to recently, they have their own like butter station, and I thought for sure, oh, this thing is like probably defunct. Like I'm sure it doesn't work or anything because why would they let people have free reign over the butter? And I touched the button and damn sure it worked. I was like, now you tell me as I'm walking out to leave that there was an entire butter machine that I could have had
I'm bringing a Tupperware
control over? Like I had no idea. The
Bringing
whole
butter
time
Tupperware.
I'll bring it home, and then I can make my popcorn and add that butter to it, and it might
There
be
you go.
just
I
what
always ask for
need.
extra, but it's never enough. Now I know.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Does anyone want to go next?
I could go next.
Sure. Okay.
I didn't choose any books because I don't, it's been a long time since I've read a book. That sounds really stupid, but I just don't have a lot of time or I can't focus to read much anymore or I fall asleep. But as far as albums go, I chose the Hot Fuss album by The Killers, which I think was like 2004. I just love that album start to finish. And I think it even had like some like secret tracks on there somewhere, like
Oh,
at
I
the
like a
very,
secret
very
track.
end. Yeah, me too. So yeah, I just love like every song on that album. I could listen to it. And I don't know that I'd want to listen to it over and over and over for like 4 days straight or however long it takes me to get to my destination. But I would definitely, it would be in the rotation for sure. And then also for snacks, I was thinking along the lines of candy and like little snacks at first, but ultimately what I ended up settling on was bologna and cheese sandwiches.
Oh,
Like the
okay.
kind you take to the beach or the kind you eat when you're swimming, when you're
I'm
a
not a
kid and you
bologna
like have to
person.
take a break cause I love those.
No.
You do? Yeah, I
Not
can't eat
even like
bologna.
fried bologna as a kid. I used
Okay,
to
now
like
fried bologna,
Yeah.
yes. That's
you
like
don't like
eating
just
a
the
cooked hot dog to me. But
Yeah.
so to me, bologna tastes like raw hot dogs, and I
It
just can't
does.
get my mind over that.
Oh, it does. I like about it,
Yeah.
I think.
Oh,
I like raw
okay.
hot dogs, but yeah, you can't think about it too much. That's all. Just bologna on white bread with a piece of Kraft singles cheese and some
No mustard?
mayo, maybe a little
Mayo?
mustard, just a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
but that's
We
just a
disagree
really
on our
good.
sandwich. Like I would have to make a whole different kind of sandwich if we went on a road trip
Yeah.
together, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are better snacks, but there were times when I've made that for myself to bring to work for lunch, and I've like thought about it all day until lunchtime. I'm like ready to eat
Aw.
it.
Well, now I know you're easy to please, and when I
I
invite you over for lunch,
yeah,
I'm just
you
gonna
know,
make bologna and cheese sandwiches. So,
cut them into triangles, and I will be a happy girl.
all right,
But yeah, those are my choices.
that is cute.
It's okay, Leah, because I wouldn't bring a book because I don't like to read. Not because I'm not busy. I just don't. I've never, even as a child, didn't like to read.
Okay,
I can
that
probably
makes me
count
feel
on
better.
like both hands how many books I've actually started and finished. So
Yeah, that makes me
you're
feel
okay.
better.
Good company.
Then-
Ironically, I chose. Did you? Were you done, Leah? I'm sorry, I don't want to
Oh, yeah.
interrupt you. Okay.
Oh, I
Ironically,
thought Allison was giving hers.
I'm sorry. We cut you off. Then go ahead.
I know you're fine. And then for music, so like once a year, me and my boyfriend will try to go. He's from Syracuse, and we'll try to do the drive from Florida to Syracuse, which is like 19 hours.
Mhm.
We'll split it in half
Okay.
sometimes. But I enjoy road trips. I think they're a lot of fun. But we don't have like a specific type of music that we like. We'll just go back and forth picking different things, and we both learn new music that way.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cute.
And in the snack, it'll be movie theater popcorn and peanut M&Ms, specifically dark chocolate peanut M&Ms.
Ooh.
Oh,
they
you
have
mix them
those
together.
Sweet and
Right.
salty, yeah. So you
I
can't
don't
really,
think I
like, be
knew
like,
that-
oh, that's too sweet. Oh, that's too salty. You get the perfect balance.
I will
I
be
don't
eating
think
your
I knew dark
snacks.
chocolate ones existed.
I
Oh,
do.
yeah, they're
I
good.
ate a
Yeah.
whole bag recently, so it
I
was
need
bad.
Mhm.
those.
Like the family size, not the little one,
Ooh.
so it was a problem.
I'll be going to the store after this is over. I need those.
Yes, those are good.
So good.
Mhm.
That's funny because actually peanut M&Ms were one of the things that I considered in my snack options as well,
That's always a
Allison.
good one.
Mhm.
So
Great
yeah,
choice.
it is. And the
Those
fact
are
that you and
good.
Kelly both thought of the movie theater popcorn, I think we've got everything covered almost when it comes
Mhm.
to snacks, salty, sweet, and sandwiches. I didn't think too hard about the food. I was just thinking, as long as I have chocolate, I'm fine. So
Mhm.
that could go in several different directions. I'm also really huge on Chex Mix. So those would probably
Mm.
be, and I might mix them together even, some
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
chocolate
Yeah.
candy with the Chex Mix. I'd like
Have
to
you
do
ever
that
had
as well.
well, I've heard it called different things, but I learned it as puppy chow. But like
Oh yeah, I
the
love
Yeah.
that
Chex
too.
Mix
Hmm.
with the powdered sugar and the what do you put on it? Like melted butter and
I think it's butter,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
They sell it in
that's
the store now too, called
Oh,
Buddies
do
or
they?
something. Oh yeah.
yep.
Go over by the Chex Mix section at Publix, and they've got these bags of this stuff called Buddies, and it's either peanut butter chocolate or just chocolate, and
Yeah,
it's
like
covered
Muddy
in the powdered
Buddies or
Oh.
something.
sugar. And
Really?
yeah, oh yeah,
Oh, that
get you
stuff's so
some.
good.
It's
I could just eat
delicious.
it forever.
And then for albums, I feel like maybe I might have cheated a little bit, but I don't care because I'm gonna choose soundtracks so that I can get,
Oh,
a
that's
mix.
smart.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would either choose the Love and Basketball soundtrack. It is genuinely
That's a good one.
has probably almost all the songs are some of my favorite songs of all times. It has It Takes Two on it, so a dance number. I Like by Guy is probably one of my favorite songs of all times, and it happens to be on there. We've got some MC Light. Sweet Thing is on there. It's just such a good compilation. Or I would choose The Whackness. That album has a bunch of like is hip hop. It just reminds me of high school. It is kind of my sweet spot when it comes to music. So I would cheat and pick one of those albums. But music would have to be there because I don't think I could
Yeah.
live without
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
definitely.
And then in terms of books, I was trying to think of something along the lines like you, Kelly, with a series, but what I decided on, which what I was going to say is you wouldn't expect, I'm picking the Bible because I've never read
Oh,
that thing from cover to cover, and I
Okay.
want to figure out all the things they've been lying to me about all this time and go and do some fact checking. I
oh,
think that,
Interesting.
yeah,
Mhm.
it would cover a lot of time. I could make notes and have things to argue about people with. So I think that could be fun.
I
surely
like
there's
it.
like a Cliff's Notes version out there, right?
Right? Well, we
There's
have
all sorts of versions. Like some are easier to read, some are like all the fancy writing. Like mine are
Mm-hmm.
all King James, but those can be a little fluffy
Mm-hmm.
reading. But then they have versions that are very like plain worded. So
That's what I would need.
I don't know. I'm interested. I went to Catholic school and they teach you like a handful of stories over and over and over and over again, and then you don't
mhm.
really learn about anything else. And Kelly and I have had some conversations about like Old Testament stuff, and I'm like, I didn't even know that stuff was in there. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of fascinating. I'd like to learn a little bit more. So anyway,
Yeah.
all
Oh,
right,
that's a
guys,
good one.
ready to jump into Lovecraft country?
Yes. To celebrate the lore, mythology, and monsters of the sci-fi world created by H.P. Lovecraft and seen in the show Lovecraft Country, we have paired the premiere episode of this series with True Myth Cabernet Sauvignon. True Myth Wine describes itself as a brand that has set out to celebrate the patience and wonder of Mother Nature and the natural beauty of the world, grounded in the art of storytelling and the power of belief. True Myth is a rich and smooth Paso Robles Cabernet with aromas of blueberry, cherry and vanilla, and flavors of dark red fruits, black currants, mocha, caramelized oak, and a hint of pepper. Pair this wine with grilled meats, barbecue, lamb, and a good sci-fi story. Enjoy! For more information about us and all of the wines that we feature, visit our website at fearandwine.com. And make sure you follow Fear and Wine wherever you listen to podcasts so that you don't miss a new episode. And if you like us, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. Thanks!
All right, so I wanted to give a little bit of background first, just for maybe anyone listening who didn't know about H.P. Lovecraft or the allusion to the title and all that. So the title Lovecraft Country is based on the famous horror sci-fi writer H.P. Lovecraft, and he was an early 20th century writer. He was known for pioneering the genre that they called cosmic horror, or genre if my mom was talking. Anyway, the genre of cosmic horror. These stories were steeped in monsters and gods and like terrifying just aliens and sci-fi, and the idea that we as humans are really insignificant in the face of the universe as a whole, which I think about that a lot. The fact that we're
Mhm.
standing on a rock flying through space and I'm still paying bills somehow. I just don't always get
Right.
that. That's fine. So his influence can be seen all over the place in pop culture movies like Alien and even shows like Stranger Things. He has like a whole mythos of monsters, and we're going to learn about some of these monsters as we read The Town of Arkham, the Eldritch eldritch horrors. These are things that you actually do see echoed throughout sci-fi and horror today. Unfortunately, Lovecraft was also notoriously racist, and I mean really racist. His stories often reflected xenophobic fears, deeply disturbing stereotypes, and he openly expressed white supremacist views in his personal life. This
Wow.
contradiction, the idea that we have a literary genius paired with ugly ideology, creates a tension that modern creators must grapple with, and it becomes one of the themes of Lovecraft Country itself. And I
And
do
like
think that's
what
something that, oh,
years?
sorry, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, but what like years was he popular, or
Alive,
when was he
alive, I
living?
guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me look that up because I only have early 20th century written down, but I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
remember. I don't know his like birth and death dates, but I
Yeah,
know.
I can look it up. So no big deal.
Oh, I can look that up
It's
too. I
good
just
for
didn't
context
know.
for you to know those things. So I think so. It looks like he was born in 1890 and he died in 1937.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
That
He's
I was just
considered one of the
curious of the time
masters of
frame.
Gothic terror and Gothic horror.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But being notoriously racist, this being a theme, I think this comes up a lot in Jordan Peele's films and the things that he chooses to include himself kind of as a part of. So I think this idea of when we think about people having to read stories from people that are just kind of disgusting and racist, and that idea of separating art from artist, I think it comes up a lot in popular culture. And this is
Hmm.
kind of an early representation of that. We're seeing people enjoying Lovecraft, but really he's a horrible person, but yet we're still enjoying his art even to this day. So I think that's an interesting kind of dichotomy there.
Yeah, he influenced a lot of today's famous sci-fi and horror
Yeah.
writers. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's as racist as you can be, and we'll get to that a little bit more when we get into the story, because there's a poem of his that is brought up in the first episode that really kind of shows us just how bad he actually was. So this is where Lovecraft Country comes in, and it is created by Misha Green and executive produced by Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams. So they don't shy away from Lovecraft's legacy. It really stares it down, and it uses the structure and the tropes of Lovecraftian horror, not to glorify, but to subvert, placing Black characters at the center of the narrative. So we have these stories that Lovecraft purposefully kept people of color out of, and we have these storytellers inserting them into it. It's almost like a way of fighting back, which I really kind of like. So the backdrop of our story is in Jim Crow America. And we know that Jordan Peele is known for his own brand of social horror, like in Get Out and Us. And I think he saw an opportunity here to reclaim and reframe the genre, and in the end, kind of turning horror into healing. And I think that's an interesting way to look at the horror genre, as an opportunity to heal, you know? So anyway, set in the 1950s, Lovecraft Country follows Atticus Freeman, a young Black man who sets off on a road trip across segregated America in search of his missing father. What initially begins as a search for family turns into a much deeper journey that uncovers ancient secret societies, eldritch horrors, magical bloodlines, and the inescapable legacy of racism. We do see this backdrop of the racist South sprinkled throughout the entire series. It's always there. Each episode is kind of like a chapter in a book, like a book of horror stories. So the nice thing is you can kind of watch them separately or together, but it does merge sci-fi, horror, historical fiction, and it's used to confront the trauma that Black Americans have endured across time. The series doesn't just show monsters in the shadows, it kind of brings them out into the open. And it shows us that some of the most terrifying monsters are actually human beings walking in daylight, wearing uniforms, and they operate within the systems that we already have. So I think it is about reclaiming narrative power and battling supernatural threats. So there's kind of this fun mix of history and fiction interwoven together. So in our first episode, Sundown, we are introduced to Atticus, Letitia, and Uncle George. Atticus is called Tick throughout, and Letitia is called Letty, just so if I refer to them as those names, you'll know who I'm talking about. And they are embarking on a road trip through the Jim Crow South. They're not just looking for Atticus's father, they're navigating a country filled with sundown towns, racist sheriffs, and hidden evil forces. The first episode does set this tone for us that terror is twofold. There are supernatural monsters, but there's also these really deeply violent American racist monsters. So these people are kind of going to battle both the supernatural and the real monsters. So the title Sundown refers to real world towns where Black people were warned not to be caught after dark. This makes the road trip particularly dangerous for our trio because they have to concern themselves with where these towns might be located. And this is where Uncle George kind of comes in really interestingly because he's played by Courtney B. Vance, who I love, and he publishes in the story The Safe Negro Travel Guide. And this is inspired by the real life Green Book. So the idea that you guys, you guys all know about the Green Book?
Yes.
Leah, do you?
Yes.
I don't.
Okay. Does someone else want to explain the Green Book better? I don't want to.
Well, I didn't see the movie Green Book, but I am familiar with what they are. And it's kind of like what Uncle George does. It's these books, and they're almost like travel guides, but they let Black people know what areas are safe and where to not be, and where it's okay, where accepted to be.
Okay.
So it was really just like a travel guide of, hey, stay away from here. This place is cool, type of thing.
I see. I remembered there was the movie, not like somewhat recently, but I don't think that was anything that I had seen.
I haven't seen it either, but
I had
my
no idea
friend
about
Annette
that.
has told me that they watch it every year. They love it. So I think I'm actually going to watch it because I've heard it's an excellent film. So I'm it makes me more interested about the history of this as well. Kind of going back and rewatching this. You know, this character and what Courtney B. Vance's character is doing is based in real history. So I think that's something that we see throughout this, that we have all these allusions and references back to real people in history.
And by the way, the cast of this is like a top tier movie.
Yeah.
For this to be a TV show,
So
like the
good.
cast is amazing.
Yeah.
That they got.
Well, you know,
Absolutely.
I've heard Journey Smollett's name for years, especially considering because her brother was in the news for all that stuff. But I had no idea until I just saw, and I remember seeing like promotions for this show, but I've never watched it myself. But I just didn't ever put two and two together that she is Michelle Tanner's best friend on
she
Full
sure
House.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see her, and I'm like, well, she looks exactly the same. How did I
Exactly
miss
the
that?
same.
How did I not know that was her all of these years?
Why does she look so much like Tisha Campbell to me too? I don't know why, but I feel like they must
I
be
could
related
see a
somewhere.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't
maybe
know
her
why.
her hair and stuff in this, the way her hair is. but
Maybe, yeah, she's adorable.
she is
And
adorable.
okay, so I was actually going to mention her. So Letty Lewis is portrayed by Journey Smollett, and and it's kind of strange to me that they include her on this journey. I never really quite understood why they chose to include her. Do you guys
It
know?
seemed a little forced. Like
Yeah.
we have
Okay.
Journey and we need her in the story, so she's just gonna hop in the car and everybody's cool with it. Because
Yeah.
it didn't really make sense how she got in there.
Same. Yeah, even though
yeah.
he had just told his wife she couldn't come because it wouldn't be safe for a woman. So
Right.
that was what I just didn't quite understand, but it's okay. Anyway, so Atticus is played by Jonathan Majors, and he is a Korean War veteran. He's actually just coming back from the war to try to find his father, and he is an avid reader of science fiction. He's so smart, and we kind of see that throughout. People refer to him as kind of a nerd back in the day, and that he's just really intelligent. He's always reading, and we kind of get that Lovecraft sort of connection through him. So he's returning home to Chicago after receiving a cryptic letter from his estranged father, Montrose, who claims to have discovered something about their family's, quote, secret legacy. So there's some mystery involved. So we talked about Letty and then also Uncle George. So the episode begins with a surreal kind of dream sequence, and it's all in black and white. It's very confusing, sort of, because we have Atticus, and he's in the trenches of war, but he's also witnessing this like mashup of chaos, and it's all sci-fi stuff. Flying saucers, there's a big monster. Jackie Robinson comes in with a baseball bat and he's smashing the monsters. It's really absurd, you can kind of tell it's a dream sequence because of the weird stuff going on, but it does set a really great tone, I think, for the rest of the series, because we have kind of real stuff mixing in with monsters and dreams and nightmares and everything colliding. There's also a voiceover that we start to hear, and it sounds very much like an old 60s sci-fi intro, like the Star Trek one. And it says, quote, "This is the story of a boy and his dream. But more than that, it is a story of an American boy in a story that is truly American." So I love that. At this point, Atticus is jolted awake, and we see that he's actually on a bus. And there's a sign overhead in the back that reads "Colored Section Only." And he is sitting in that back section. The bus is just leaving Kentucky, and it breaks down, and everyone is forced to get off the bus to wait for help. By the looks of the cornfield and the mean-looking white guys, it doesn't seem to be a very friendly place for our main character, especially so close to that Kentucky border, during Jim Crow South. And at the time, he has a book in his hands, and we find out he is reading a book called A Princess of Mars. And I looked it up. It's actually a real book. So I was curious to know if it was real. And it came from a science fantasy novel written by Edgar Rice Burroughs. And it was first shown in a magazine in July 1912. So it is considered an example of pulp fiction. And pulp fiction seems to be something that our character likes to read because I think it's brought up a few times.
What does that mean? I didn't know that was a term other than being a title
you
of the
didn't?
movie. No.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So the initial idea of the pulp fiction film is based on this genre that existed. And I want to get you a better definition of it because I don't want to give you the wrong definition, but it is considered its own genre and it is racy, action-based stories. They were usually printed in magazines in the early 1900s, between 1900 and 1950, and it got its name from the paper it was printed on, actually. So,
Oh.
yeah, it's these like cheap, kind of fast-paced stories that
Mhm.
don't really have a lot of substance, but they were exciting and people like to
That's
read them.
I had no
Yeah,
idea. Huh.
cool. Well, look at that. We're educating today. I love that. All right, so the woman as they get off the bus, he starts walking with the other black woman that was sitting in the back with him, and she asks him how he can read a book with a Confederate as a main character. And he says he has to overlook that so he can really enjoy the adventure and the characters. And we find out Atticus is on his way home from the army, as I mentioned before, to try to find his father who is missing. The scene has a really shift, and we hear a lively Etta James song playing called I Just Want to Make Love to You. So there's a song playing in the background, and the word Chicago appears really large on the screen. So we're kind of getting a break. We're changing scenes. We had this little scene where they're getting off the bus, and then we're abruptly switching over to a scene in Chicago. And there's a lively neighborhood scene playing out, and we see loads of happy black people and groups of children laughing. They're playing in the streets. They're, opening up those things so they can run in the water. What are those
Fire
called?
hydrant?
Yes, fire hydrants. I don't know why my brain couldn't think of that word. And there's just such a joyous sort of quality to the scenes that we're seeing. The camera pans up into a window and we see a couple lying in a bed together. And this is Uncle George, Courtney B. Vance. She immediately identifies him by calling him George Freeman. So, she uses his full name even, and we're able to know exactly who it is. And the woman he's laying with is his wife. He is getting ready to leave on a road trip, and we learn about the guides he is writing for Black travelers. He tells his wife that she has to stay home so she can be safe. He says it's even worse on the road for women. And that's where I was confused why they chose to bring a young woman with them, but he does say it's
Right.
even worse for women. So Atticus arrives in Chicago. Then we learn that that's where he was headed to. And we do learn that Atticus is George's nephew, and they call him Tick. They plan to head out of Chicago to try to find Atticus's father together. So they decide to head into town to pick up some supplies, and they're in a store grabbing some things, and there's a section with books. And Tick picks up a book off the shelf that is titled The Outsiders and Others by H.P. Lovecraft. And we see the publisher and everything. It's published by Arkham House. And I guess finding a physical copy of this book now is almost impossible, but it is the
Oh,
first
really?
book. Yeah, it's the first book to be published under the Arkham House label, and that was Lovecraft's own label. And I did see a copy on eBay for $6,500.
Whoa.
Holy moly.
Yeah, it gives you a
Did you
little
bid
bit of
on it?
yeah, right? No. I don't want to race this book, I don't think. But the idea of the outsider as the title in the story was suggested. So there was only 1,268 copies made, which is why it's so rare. And it had completely sold out by 1944, and it was never reprinted. So it is something very rare. So in this moment, we do find out that Atticus's father was not happy with him reading Lovecraft. And he actually made him memorize a Lovecraft poem titled On the Creation of, after he caught him reading this very book that he had picked up. We find out that his dad, and you guys can look that up. I'm not going to
Oh,
tell
so
you.
the title is On the Creation of N-word is the last word
Oh,
of
sorry,
that title.
I
Yeah.
purposely. Yeah. So, and it's just such a severely racist poem, and yeah. So his father made him memorize it by heart since he was going to read books that were written by such a racist man. It was kind of a punishment in a way. So we find out his dad has been gone 2 weeks, and that Atticus got this strange letter from his father about his mom asking him to come and help him find her ancestors. We learn that he is obsessed with this, and he believes that Atticus has a secret birthright and that they must travel to Arkham, Massachusetts to find out everything. So this is Lovecraft Country, the area that his father said they needed to travel to. Uncle George takes the letter under a light and realizes that it actually says Ardham, Massachusetts, and not Arkham. So we're not sure at this point if there's a connection or not, but somehow Tick misread it and saw it as Arkham. So this connection to Lovecraft might have been accidental and not purposeful, but we just don't know yet. So Tick does some digging, and we learn that his father Montrose was last seen leaving a bar with a white man in a fancy suit and a fancy silver foreign car. That evening, there is a joyous party in the street with singing and dancing. There's a woman that is just putting on the most entertaining show, and a car pulls up, and the gorgeous Journey Smollett gets out and approaches the stage. We learn that Journey's character, Letitia, has just returned from some time away and joins her sister, Ruby, who is actually the one singing on the stage. So they're related, and they perform a fabulous rendition of A Whole Lot of Shakin' for the crowd, and everybody's dancing. And again, it's just a really happy, joyous spirit.
And Leah, Ruby is the same actress that plays Annie in Sinners.
Oh, okay.
If you're trying
Yes.
to picture her.
When
Yeah.
we are done with this recap, let's go over that because I saw Sinners a few
Oh,
nights
okay.
ago and I loved it and I would like to talk about it.
I still haven't seen it, so okay. Uncle George tells Tick that Ardham hasn't appeared on any census for 200 years, but it's near Devon County, Massachusetts. After checking his guide, we see that Devon is a sundown town. So that area is an area that it is not recommended for Black people to travel to, especially after sun goes down. So Tig leaves George to check out his dad's place for clues. When he goes into his dad's home, we see that Montrose has tons of books. I mean, just shelves and shelves of books. We do see a spent cigar and a worn copy of The Count of Monte Cristo on the kitchen table, and he ends up taking the book and a gun he finds in the closet. So looking around, it looks like he might have left not expecting to leave because there are things left out, and it just doesn't seem like, this was a planned trip in any way. So the next morning runs into Letty, and as she is packing up a car, we learn that she is joining George and Tick on their trip. As we watch the car moving along, we begin to hear the distinct voice of James Baldwin, which I didn't realize this till now, but I wrote this as a side note. You know how Dave Chappelle does that fancy voice on his, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Is
James
that
Baldwin.
who he is? Oh, okay.
I swear he's doing a James Baldwin impression when he does that voice on the Chappelle Show. But anyway, and what we hear James Baldwin talking about is how in reality, the American dream is actually at the expense of American Black people. So Uncle George decides they will stop off for lunch at a spot that he has heard is safe for Black travelers that he got a tip about and wants to maybe add it to his guide. So he's kind of trying to use this trip as a way to kind of add to his guide as well. He says it only will take them a little bit off the path in Simonsville. So as they pull into town, I see an awful lot of like white people, and they all seem to be staring at them from the roads, and it's not a comfortable vibe. It's not the vibe we got in the streets of Chicago, that's for sure. So George sends them toward this red brick building where this diner is supposed to be, and there is definitely a diner there, but it doesn't look very nice and it's kind of small. And as they walk in, they are stared at by everybody in there. There's one guy working and one guy sitting at the table. They both stare at the trio as they walk in, and the only man in there gets up and leaves. He walks out. The other two want to leave. Letty and Tick get kind of bad vibes, but Uncle George insists that they stay, and Letty goes back to use the restroom, and while she's back there, she overhears the white waiter calling someone and reporting on the phone that they are there in the diner. She comes running out, and they all hightail it to the car because they realize that this is not a safe place to be. And as they're doing that, a fire truck comes around the corner, and there's a car full of angry white men with guns, and they literally start chasing them down in this high-speed chase. And they're shooting at the car. They shoot the back window out. And luckily, Tick had that gun as well, and he actually shoots back. So this whole high-speed chase ensues, and in the end, it ends very abruptly with the truck getting cut off by this Rolls Royce. It's like a silver Rolls Royce that cuts the truck off, and then the truck flips and the men flip out, and it doesn't look like anybody is going to survive that. So at this point, that silver car stops, and this rich-looking white woman steps out, and she looks over at Tick and smiles at him. And she's wearing a black suit and a bright red hat. And he just yells at Letty to drive off and get out of there. So they take off in that moment. So we get this image of this woman, but we don't know who she is yet. And if you recall, do you guys recall what they said about where his dad went?
Where they said where he went?
He
No.
left the
Mm-mm.
bar with a white man and that he was driving a silver car, a fancy silver car.
Oh, I think I missed that part.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I did too.
So, yeah, fancy silver car. So, well, in my mind immediately was like, oh, silver car, silver car. Okay, this has something to do with that. So, in this moment, they really do barely escape with their lives. And they end up heading on to Letty's half brother's home, Marvin, and they stay overnight, kind of just rest before they take on the next leg of their trip. So, in my little research through the wiki, I did find out that I think Letty and Ruby are half siblings as well as Marvin. So, I think they're all half siblings.
Okay.
Marvin has done some research on the city they are headed to, and he tells them everything he's gathered about Devon County. The county seat, Bideford, is named after a town in England where they had one of the last witch trials. They actually hung a woman there for sleeping with the devil, who appeared to her as a black man, they said. This suggests that Bideford was founded by witch hunters and steeped in racism. Marvin also has found stories of how travelers were attacked in the surrounding woods by undetermined animals. So not only does there seem to be danger in real life with the town itself, there's something about lore of there being crazy wild animals in the woods too. Additionally, there are some missing people from this town, and they actually relate it back to the current sheriff. His name is Eunice Hunt. They say that they show this folder and they say he has a giant file of NAACP complaints against him. So not a good man running this town that they're headed to. As for Ardham, which is where they're supposedly headed to, it was settled around the same time as Bideford. And Marvin pulls out a map and points to where Ardham should be, but it's not on the map, and it appears to be in the middle of nowhere with no guide stops around it. So they're kind of going into uncharted territory. So it ends up being a real emotional evening in the house because the uncle and nephew fight about Atticus's missing father, and Letty, we hear her fighting with her brother inside and him telling her to get out of there. So the trip doesn't necessarily end in the best feeling, but they do get on their way early the next morning and decide to continue on to Devon County. As they are driving through a thick wooded area, they begin to argue after realizing they're kind of lost. They can't seem to find the bridge that they need to take to Ardham, and that area where nothing was really mapped, really, they can't figure out where they need to go. Letty reminds them that they don't want to be out after dark, and as they discuss their plans, a sheriff pulls up and makes them all line up at the back of the car, outside of the car. He asks them if they know what a sundown town is, and that if it had been dark, it would be, quote, his sworn duty to hang them from trees.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right? He tells them they might not have enough time to get out before sundown, and as they look at the time, they realize there's only 9 minutes before the sun is supposed to go down. The cop proceeds to kind of take his time and make Tick beg him and degrade himself in order to let him leave, or try to leave at least. Otherwise, he's basically cutting off the amount of time they have left to get out of there. So he does. He ends up letting them get back in the car and leave after Tick does beg him to leave. And once they start leaving, the cop gets in his car and starts following them, like right behind them. And he even begins ramming the back of their car at some points. And this, it's really a tense moment because we along with the characters are watching the sun start to go down further and further and further, and they can't speed because they know that if they speed, he's going to pull them over for speeding. So they have to go the speed limit and try to make it out of this town just in time. And they do. Luckily, literally just with seconds to spare, they make it just over the county line, and they relax and they finally smile. And as they look ahead, we see more cops blocking the road. So it was a trap. I mean, the guy never planned on letting them leave, and they block them all off. So they make them get out of the cars and they start walking them into the woods. They're pointing guns at them, and then they make them all lay on the ground. And in this moment, it looks as if our trio is going to be murdered in the woods after sundown in a part of town that wasn't even supposed to be a sundown town. Things get very intense, and it seems that the cops are just about to shoot them when we start hearing these really strange noises from the woods all around, like animalistic sort of noises, and the cops start looking scared. And instead of aiming their weapons at Uncle George, Tick, and Letty, they start kind of aiming their weapons out and around the woods surrounding them in the dark because we just keep hearing these strange noises. And in this moment, something lunges in and rips one of the cop's arms right off his body.
Oh my
And it
God.
it turns into kind of a bloodbath. We start hearing flesh tearing, blood flying everywhere, and Tick gets up and screams, "Run!" to our trio. And they all three get up and they start booking it into the wood. And we start see you actually see the creatures, and they look like these giant inhuman lizard-like creatures that are almost like guard dogs, but lizards. But they're really, really strange looking, and they start chasing not only the cops but our trio as well. They're chasing everybody. So Tick
Crazy.
and Letty get split off from Uncle George in this moment, and Uncle George kind of lays. He's on the ground. I think he's kind of playing dead at this point, and the lizard does catch up and eats one of the cops right in front of us. So these things are hungry and angry.
I love monsters, and I love when you get to see them too, because
Yes, me
sometimes
too.
it's frustrating when you don't, and it's just, I mean, it's creepy, I guess, when you kind of don't get to see the full monster, but I want to see the full monster.
I like the
So
payoff.
I like that they're showing you.
Me too. I like the payoff.
Yeah.
So as they're running, Tick and Letty end up finding an abandoned cabin to hide in. And so they are able to get in there and close the door in time. But just as they're about to lock it, the sheriff and one cop push their way up into the cabin. Now, Tick and Letty are trapped in this cabin with the sheriff and another cop while we have these other monsters outside. So really bad situation. We do see that the sheriff has been really badly injured, though. I mean, he is cut, bitten into. He's got chunks taken out of him. Like, he is in bad
Yeah, they
shape.
messed him up.
Yeah, badly. Those things got to him. And in this moment, we hear Uncle George. He comes running. He ends up making it just in time into the cabin. These things are chasing him. And now we do have the cop, the sheriff, and then our trio together in this cabin. They decide that Letty needs to try to make a run for the car because they don't think that they can all make it, and she's the fastest. So they decide she's going to make a run for the car and try to bring the car back to get them and get them out of there.
Mind you, I think Letty's in like espadrilles or something. Like, she's not in sneakers, so I'm still not sure why she got chosen to. Because I'm pretty sure she's in wedges or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. She's
I
definitely
think
not
I'd have had
running.
to rip those things off my feet.
Yeah, I'm
Make
sure
a
she
comment.
did, but I was just like, was that the best choice?
Yeah, not the
Just
guy who just got back
footwear-wise?
from the army. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But they do. They chose her. So she does make the run for the car. And the monster chases, there is a monster chasing her the entire way, but she does make it into the car. So we then flash back to the cabin, and the sheriff, all of a sudden, we realize that whatever bit him, he is starting to morph into one of these creatures. And there's a reference made almost to vampires in this moment. So the idea, I don't know why do you think he knew that they could maybe only live, I don't know. Someone decides these must be vampiric creatures. The reason that people only see them at night is they only come out at night. So we just need to make it to the morning and we'll be okay. So they
Yeah,
have
I'm
all
not
this discussion.
sure how George made that connection
Right?
so fast. I guess
too.
because the guy was starting to turn, so he's like, well, what else could he be? Because he was
Yeah.
making those weird faces, or, like faces and stuff. So maybe he just assumed if he turns, then let's just apply all vampire rules immediately to this
Yeah, it was-
monster. Yeah.
It was a quick determination that they were
Yeah.
vampiric, but
I
so
had
the
to look
idea is
these
that
up.
these vampires
They're called
are
the
somehow...
Shoggoths.
Go ahead, sorry.
Shagas?
It's Shogggoths. That's what
these
these
are called?
creatures are called.
Okay. I'm going to write that down so I can find an image of it.
Yeah,
me
I'm
too.
looking at them and they are disgusting looking.
Yeah, they don't look like anything that I could... Okay, so you can see images of them from Lovecraft, but they might look a little different from the ones we're seeing in Lovecraft Country. You see what I mean?
Okay.
So, but go to the wiki. There's a Lovecraft wiki for Lovecraft Country, and you can definitely find all the images there too if anyone wants to look at them.
Nice.
It's a good
Yeah.
place to look.
Because it looks like they're inspired by his creatures.
Gotcha. That
but
makes sense.
They're probably, I'm sure, their own take on them,
For sure, for sure. That's
Okay.
cool though. I like knowing the original that it, goes back to.
Yeah.
All right, so we know that Letty made the run for it, and the sheriff is turning. And in this moment, back at the cabin, the sheriff morphs fully into one of these creatures, and due to his injuries, and he ends up immediately killing the other cop that's right next to him, and then turns to Uncle George and Tick. And this is the moment that it looks like it's going to be over for them. And in this exact moment, Letty drives the car straight through the wall of the cabin, and the commotion actually ends up drawing more monsters. So now they are surrounded by a large group of these monsters.
Well, why'd she go and do that? Was she
Right? I don't
trying
know, but
to?
it definitely drew more attention.
Oh,
But all of a sudden, there's a whistling, and it's like a whistle like someone would call their dogs. And all of the monsters come to attention at once, and they turn and they run off together in a group. And our trio is saved. So, and that included the sheriff turning into the monster. So, him and all the rest of these monsters, like a pack of dogs, just immediately responded to this whistle and took off running. So, it is now the next morning. Our heroes look really haggard, but they are walking out of the forest at this point. They don't have the car anymore. I don't know. Maybe after she drove it through the cabin, it didn't work. I'm not sure, but they are walking out of the forest. And now we get the word Artem that pops up on the screen real big, like the word Chicago did at the beginning. So we're getting a change in scene or a change in city. And this seems to be the way they're doing that in this story. So it appears on the screen, and our trio looks up and we see huge buildings. I mean, it looks like a college campus in England, like that what are those like popular college Cambridge. Beautiful brick buildings and huge it's just you would not expect to see this out in the middle of nowhere in the early 1900s. As they approach the door, a very Aryan looking man answers and says, "We've been waiting for you. Welcome home, Mr. Freeman." And that's where the episode ends.
Yep.
interesting.
So they were
Very
waiting for
creepy.
Atticus.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yes. It's really good how the way this story unfolds.
I
And
like
I
that we got
love-
creatures already in the first episode.
For sure.
Yeah, so
And I
much
love
happens
a
in one episode.
Yeah.
cliffhanger too, where you're like, who is this guy? Like I
Yeah.
immediately wanted to rewatch episode 2 when I rewatched episode 1.
When this originally aired, was it weekly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's fun. I mean, I know binging is like the thing nowadays, but it's fun sometimes to have to wait for the next episode, I think.
I think it is. When you have something that's good like this that can get people's attention, it's great. But then you have some shows that, like, to me, are meant to be binge because they go so slow that
True.
if I have to wait each week, I'm going to probably forget about it. But if I
Yeah.
can watch like 3 or 4 in a row, then I'm like, oh, I'm into this.
That's a good
And then,
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a cliffhanger and I can wait week to week for sure. I think
Yeah, it needs
I
a
agree
good
with you.
cliffhanger.
And I tend
Or
to
if it's-
remember the ones that I watch more slowly way better because
Yes.
you have time to discuss it online on social media or with your friends, and it just sticks better. Anytime I binge something, it's pretty much a guarantee I'm not going to remember it probably.
Right. Yeah, it's been a while since I had seen this series. So I watched their first 2 episodes that we did. And I was like, did they add stuff? I don't remember. I don't remember certain parts of this. And I'm sure they didn't, but it's
Yeah,
been
you
that
forget.
long. And
Yeah.
I didn't remember. But
That's
yeah,
funny.
it's really cool. And I remember the first time I watched this, I was looking up. So I had heard of sundown towns and knew what they were. And I was looking up where they were and if they still existed. And technically they do. Only because it's one of those things that, you know how they have those old-timey laws that they just never remove from the books? So technically they are still laws and illegal, and that's kind of how these are. And so one of them is a town that we all like and hang out in, and that is a Gulfport, Florida.
For real?
Yep, it used to be one.
I didn't know
And
that.
I get, so there,
Oh my
I've seen some
gosh.
maps where it's like, sundown towns in your area, and historically it was one. But it's
Wow.
just, I think it's just one of those things that never got erased. so.
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure that there are towns where, you probably wouldn't want to go ever, not even just
Oh, yeah.
at night.
Mhm.
Because
Still today, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
my
that's kind of
gosh.
scary.
I'm going to pop this in the chat just if anybody wants to look at it, but there is a map that exists right now. Oh my, this is horrifying.
Right, that's
It's
what I'm
the
saying.
Sundown
That's how they
Town
can
map
find
right
them.
now.
Scary to know how
gosh.
many are close to where I live, honestly.
They're all over the
Honestly,
place.
They're
Yeah.
everywhere. Wow. That really brings the visual to life when you look at that. So
Mm-hmm.
if anyone wants
Yeah.
to look, it is justice.tougaloo.edu.map or /map. So it is an edu, which is a reputable source.
Yeah, I think
And
that's the
it-
map I was
correct.
looking at to find them.
Yeah. Wow.
It's
That's
crazy.
horrible.
I'm glad we're covering this because I remember when this came out being really intrigued by it and wanting to watch it, and I never did. So
Mhm.
now I get
It's
to.
something you would like because there are so many monsters in it.
Yeah, I do
And
like
you and I love
monsters.
monster movies.
Mm-hmm. You know we like
I was,
Godzilla.
I'm sorry my mom called Godzilla dumb last time because that wasn't
Oh,
nice.
oh,
And I know
it's
you
okay.
guys love your
Listen,
Godzilla
we
movie.
understand why. Like you've seen Leah and I text
Yeah,
about Godzilla, and it's
it is dumb.
stupid sounding conversations that we have about Godzilla.
So I felt bad when she said
We
that. I was
get
like,
it.
oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. You should tell her we were super offended.
I will actually. She'll feel so bad. It'll be fun.
No,
She's already
a lot
still
of stuff I like
apologizing
is
about
dumb.
mispronouncing genre so many times. So
I just thought it was a fancy way to say it.
no, it's not.
Yeah, it did just make her sound fancy.
Well,
Oh, so Leah, you
before
said you
we
wanted to talk about Sinners. So
yes,
Oh
before
yeah.
we finish, I would love to talk about Sinners. So I'd been wanting to see it especially since Kelli was speaking so highly of it. I just could not wait to get to the movie theater to see it because I wanted to see it before it left the theater. I don't know how much longer it will be there, but anyway, I went. It was like a Tuesday night, and just from the beginning, I was in. I was so in. Like from the second it starts, it just had my attention. The way they develop the characters and they get you like, to care about each of them was amazing because I was, some movies or stories, they just develop so quickly that you don't really get a connection to the characters and you don't really necessarily care what happens to them. But the way that this unfolded, it was just, I loved how the beginning, like if you didn't know that it was about vampires, you could get a good way through the movie and still not know, I feel like,
Right. You could
And
get
so
a
I
good
just,
way through the movie and not even realize it's horror. Like if you went in
right,
completely blind, you'd be like,
right.
"Oh, that's a nice little period piece starring
Yeah,
to Michael B. Jordan."
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
I
I
kind of
love
love
the
that
way, I
though.
mean, you truly do forget that he's the same actor playing two
Right?
parts.
They did a good job.
They did such a good job. And just there were funny parts. There was like a lot of comic relief. I heard somebody say that it was it had the tension of like, say, a Jurassic Park. And I was like, I agree with that because Jurassic Park has scary parts and, some gross parts, but I wasn't like, I didn't feel like I was watching a horror movie. It was just a fun, good story with like some scary parts. And honestly, Remek, the bad guy, the bad vampire, I loved him.
Oh yeah.
He was hilarious.
I got a kick out of him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did
liked
too.
him.
I really liked the scenes with him that included him. But anyway, Kristin, you've got to get to the theater to see it because
I
I
do need
just
to
feel
see
like,
it. You're right.
yeah,
It's funny though. One of my friends, who loves horror like us, I was interested in her opinion of it, and she had seen
Mhm.
it, and she didn't love. I mean, she didn't dislike it, but she didn't love
Mhm.
it like everybody else. I think she said that there were river dancing vampires, and that really was annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, that was one of my
Okay,
favorite
Is that
parts.
true?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
okay.
my
That
favorite
part
part.
is a
By the
little
way,
silly.
it was one river dancing
one river
vampire.
Yeah.
He was
I mean,
an
and that
excellent river dancer.
he was great.
I'm excited to see that part now.
But
'Cause
the song during that part, it really, it's a good,
It
it
is
goes
a good
hard.
It's a bop.
song.
It goes hard. It
All
was
right,
good.
that was a real good song. No, that part is silly, and there are parts
It
that
is.
feel almost a little bit cheesy, but I feel like that's the comic relief that they're
yeah, you
giving
need it.
you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if you're going into it thinking you're gonna see this scary horror movie, like it's not that at all. It's definitely like my
Right.
speed. I could watch it with no problem.
Right. Okay.
And if it weren't for some of maybe the sex scenes, I think they could have almost even gotten away with a PG-13. But
Maybe
I
my daughter
loved
and I will
it.
go tonight. You know what? We can. So maybe we
Yeah.
will.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, I
She
just
hasn't seen
loved
it yet
it.
either.
I thought it was really all the hype was warranted. All the stuff that I've been hearing about it for sure. I loved it. So yeah. See Sinners.
Oh,
I'm definitely
good.
Yeah. I'd like to go see it
Well-
again, honestly.
Oh, I know. Yeah. See it before, and I'm sure it'll be immediately you'd like to purchase for $20 as
Yeah.
soon as it leaves the theater. So
Yeah.
And it's
I just
still a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes after all this time. So that
Yeah.
that says a lot, really.
And the music was so good, and oh gosh, it was fun. And there were some jump scares, and like the first
I
time you
love
see
vampire
Remek,
stuff. So
Me
for
too.
me, I am all in when it's vampires.
yeah.
I'll give every vampire thing a try. Did not like Twilight. That's fine. But
Me
I do
neither.
like
That's
most. Okay.
And that's the thing with vampires, it could be scary. Like I thought 30 Days of Night did a really good horror vampire,
Yeah, I
and
love
then
them.
it could just be like semi scary, like your interview with a vampire. It doesn't have to go. It could go
Yeah.
either way with those stories.
Or silly. One of my favorite movies in the 80s was a movie called Once Bitten, and it was actually Jim Carrey.
I love that.
Oh, you
I haven't
remember
seen
that?
one?
I thought I
Yes.
was the only person that ever saw that movie, like in a
No.
fever dream.
There's
Love
Once
it.
Bitten, and then there's another one. Gosh, I can't remember it, but I
The
get
Fright
them
Night?
confused.
Oh, that was a good one
No.
too. I love
Mhm.
that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
I
funny
can't
too. See,
remember.
I do like a funny horror vampire film as well. You're
Mhm.
right. It can go so many different directions. It can be really scary. It could be more like gothic
Campy.
horror, campy.
I
Yeah,
think My Best
totally.
Friend's a Vampire is the other one I'm
I don't
thinking
know that one.
I
of
saw that
from the
one.
80s.
I might have
And
to check that one
also,
out.
did anyone ever I meant to bring this up when we talked about the vampire movies, but the Leslie Nielsen parody movie called Dracula Dead and Loving It.
I did see it, but I don't remember it.
I don't
I don't
remember it
really
either, but
remember it
that
either, but
title,
it's like in the vein of a Naked Gun.
Mhm.
It
I
was
do love
very
him.
silly,
I
but
love
yeah.
him. So
I
Yeah.
love Leslie
He's very
Nielsen.
funny.
So.
Yeah. There's so many good ones.
Well, thank you, Kristin. And thank you so much for the H.P. Lovecraft backstory, because that I did not know a lot about his history.
cool. I hope it wasn't too boring.
No,
No,
I
not at
love
all.
a lesson, and I love when history and fiction come together. Those are some of my favorite books to read. When
Mhm.
authors do a really good job at intertwining those things. So
And I like
I
the
like that.
idea that we are looking at something that's commenting on separating art from artist because we talk about that a lot. I'm still listening
Mhm.
to R. Kelly and Michael Jackson.
I
Nobody is
know.
going to stop me.
Mhm.
And I'm able to separate it. So I get that. I get that in that way that sometimes you just have to because some
Mhm.
people are just terrible, but they
Well,
still
and
put
at
out good
least
art.
he's been dead for a long time, so he's not profiting in any way
No,
off of
Yeah.
any of this stuff.
correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Yes, next episode delves much more into like the fantasy sci-fi stuff even more. So it'll be good. But thanks everyone for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye. For more information about our episodes, follow us on Instagram at Fear and Wine Pod. And if you have a fun discussion question that you'd like for us to answer on the podcast, send it to us at fearandwinepod@gmail.com.